How's it going, guys? My name is Michael and this is the Hobbyist Magic channel. I teach magic tricks on this channel. I discuss magic tricks. I review tricks from time to time. So if you like magic content like this, be sure to subscribe. So today's topic is actually the top 10 performing videos on my channel of 2025, specifically magic trick tutorial videos. So I took a look at the analytics. I looked at what were the most popular videos from the year, and I've just compiled that into a top 10 video. So I think that provides a lot of value in that you're seeing the tricks that people loved the most over the course of the whole year. So this is just my little intro for that, but feel free to use the time codes at the bottom of the screen, jump around to different tricks that seem interesting to you, or you can just use this like a free digital download where you just get to sit back, relax, and learn some tricks. Let me know which one is your favorite in the comments below. And if you're interested in supporting me, there's some different ways to do that, whether it's merch or channel memberships that you can look into. But for now, just sit back and enjoy the magic. What's up, guys? I am stoked to share this secret with you today. Under this King of Diamonds, there's a few things going on. So we have the card that gets vanished is cut out in this way. I did like a little trapezoid. And then this King of Diamonds is taped to another card. And the rest of that 5 of clubs is just taped onto that card as well. So it creates like a little puzzle piece, right? And then when these are taped together, none of the queen is actually taped to any of the King of Diamonds. The queen is taped to this piece of the Vanish card, and then that piece is taped to the king. So they are only connected by that one little piece. Does that make sense? So this plays upon a principle that does exist in other aspects of magic, of almost creating like a pocket that you have within a card. But the way we're using it in this case is to hide this card. You're able to like kind of shake it around and it just kind of falls into place. And that's all due to that puzzle piece coming together. Now you can experiment with different shapes to cut into this card, which I certainly have. The reason I like the small trapezoid is, look, you can almost get as much of the card as possible before you expose it, which means you also don't have like an entire edge being exposed. I think one way I used to do it was more of a reverse, where I had it cut here, had a jut out, and then cut here, but then you can't show this much of the card. So this is great. Now it is 3 cards thick, and that's just always going to be the case with this gimmick. So you do have the thickness factor and even potential discrepancies with a paired card. Like if you did this with a Joker, or as I've done it with another king, you kind of always have that situation, right? And so handling is going to be very important for this. But how cool is that? Like if you have a deck of cards right now and double stick tape and scissors, you are done. Like you could make this right now. It'll take you 5 minutes. So let's talk about all the potential things you can do with this now that you've made your cool little gimmick. But something interesting about this is, because this card is contained within here, you have kind of this factor where you can't show it front and back when it's in a sandwich position. What you can do to get around that is this little subtlety where you can display the card and then turn over and show it and then go back. Okay, same thing goes from the front. If you're holding it in this way, you obviously couldn't show that or it would reveal it. So you can just kind of reference it. And this is, I feel like this kind of plays on 3-card Monty, different moves like that, where that turnover, you kind of hide the fact of what's going on. So if you want to show both sides, you can show here, and come back. Then you're going to hold it in a way where, like in my hand, I'm left-handed. If the cards are going from left to right like this, from bottom to top, then when I just kind of glide my hand over, gravity will it'll just nest that card into place, which is super, super cool. You can also vanish it on the table, which I think is a huge advantage of this. So it is a slow change. It's not a visual change. That's where you get your elastics and flaps. So the advantages of this are what you want to play to, is that you can make a very clean display. You're not having to hold pressure on these cards, right? It's just sliding into place. Now, if you want, and I believe this replicates some sort of illusions that you're able to do with maybe arranging normal cards in certain ways. So I think that principle is out there. But with the gimmick version, you can show this one side and then have a card appear. It's a little more subtle. It's not as like wow factor as I would want it to be, but it is there. So sometimes a limitation can become a strength, right? So you show the two kings and a card appears in between them. I don't know. It is what it is. You can have another card hidden under the card and do a very simple card change. And so that would look like just loading it all together. You can show it front and back since we have that extra card this time. And then you can do the Vanish in the same way and show the card. So because this is a thick card, remember to square up and just use the other card to your advantage. So not displaying this card on its own too often and displaying it under the other card. So for just a chill performance where you're just showing people, I think you can come under and you have a lot of play here with like a pinky break, and you can just bring it out like, hey, I have a stack of 3 cards, right? Here's the card. You make it Vanish and then you go from there. But let's try to take this a step further. So let's say you force that 5 of clubs and then you do a more normal sandwich routine. But let's say you've revealed a normal 5 of clubs and you're just keeping that gimmick hidden for now. And so you can do that. You can maybe do 1 or 2 phases of that. Then you're going to talk about reversing it. So when it comes down to it, this can be the final phase of a sandwich routine where you put the real 5 of clubs on top of the deck, and then you're going to place the gimmick card on top. And you're going to act as though you're coming over and putting the 5 of clubs in between them again. But what you're really doing is extending the gimmick and getting into position. So now the 5 of clubs is here, and you have the gimmick loaded with the 5 of clubs, and you can turn it over to have it placed in the spectator's hand. So this is playing on, actual coin turtles and, scotch and soda idea. If we can place it in the spectator's hand, that's going to be great. So then you do need to get this card to go face up into the middle of the deck. You could also, palm it into your pocket or a card to wallet if you want to go that far. So then you can put a lot of heat on this where you have them gather up the cards themselves, just have them square it up. And then you do need to come over. That's a limit of this gimmick because it's still a gimmick, but you can come over and just display the cards. And then we can go to the deck or your pocket or wherever you've now loaded the card. And that's a good final twist for a sandwich routine. So do be careful. There is some trouble you might get into if you get it in a spot where it won't square up. I guess the main way that happens is if this side intersects or collides with the piece that it's running into. And so if you have it down here, it won't coalesce. So you do have a lot of play, but just be aware of where the gimmick is and keep it relatively straight. That way you can do this. But it is fun to, I think an advantage of this is that you don't have to be perfectly straight. You can kind of display it like a normal human being, and then you just get into position and you can square it up. Even if it's a little angled beforehand, you can still square it up from there. Check this out. I have this little slip of paper that I've drawn a stick man on both sides. Of course, he looks the same on either side. Now watch this. With empty hands, I'm going to do something kind of sad to our little stickman friend here. We're just going to start tearing him up, okay? So we tear him into a few little pieces here. Put one more in there. And poor guy, we're going to curl him up into just this little ball here. So that now you can see we just have this little curled up ball of our stickman. But watch, with a little bit of magic, I'm just gonna unfurl the pieces. Look what happened. Suddenly, somehow, and fortunately, our friend is now completely whole on both sides. Welcome to the Torn and Restored paper. This is the version from Tarbell. There's many more that have come amongst and after it, so feel free to adapt this as you desire, but I wanted to teach this kind of classic principle that is at the foundation for the ways that you can remix the Torn and Restored effect. So if you take issue with certain aspects of this version or you don't prefer certain things, that's totally fine. You might even be able to come up with solutions within this, but I wanted to give you this classic as it is. I do have some ideas for you as well for how you can make this stronger. So for starters, you're going to need a small, thin paper that also doesn't show through too much. So I felt like this sticky note was a pretty good one for me. And what I'm going to do is peel off two. And then this isn't necessarily something you have to do, but in the book, it was taught with kind of like a thin sliver of paper. I think he actually used tissue paper. So we're going to just kind of replicate the handling by making our own little slivers of paper. So the way Tarbell did it is he had these slivers of paper and then he had writing on them. But you don't have to do writing, you could make a drawing. And I think that's appealing and interesting to people. And depending on, you know, the storytelling you want to do, you can kind of get something out of the fact that, like in my case, I did a stick man. So I'm going to do a stick man again, but you can get creative. You could draw maybe a flower or a tree. You could do a pair of dumbbells, you know, anything like that. And if you're an artist, this is especially useful for you when it comes to your storytelling and your magic. Now I use dry erase marker, which in this does bleed through. So all you have to do for that is make sure you cover it up on both sides. So it helps to check front and back that you have it down. Same thing on this one, you're just going to make a duplicate stick man on both sides. So I did this pretty quick here for demonstration. And of course in performance, you're gonna want to match them as much as you can. That's something that Tarbell stressed, is the duplicate nature of it. You want it to match as much as you can, right? But I think by having it front and back, you are allowing kind of the discrepancy to be there a little bit, in that, you know, people are seeing a drawing on the front and back. They don't remember which drawing they're seeing, so they're expecting a little bit of variation between the two drawings, front and back. In this presentation too, it kind of allows you a little bit of the, I don't know, you could make it into a joke or whatever, where you're saying like, oh, you want to see what he looks like from the back? And you know, it's the exact same thing. Next, you're going to tape these two together. Now, the way that Tarbell did it was with like a dot of glue. You can certainly do that, but I'm just going to use a little bit of double stick tape. Take off a small piece, and if it's not small enough, you can even fold that piece over onto itself so that you just have this little square right there. And this is why I did a stick man. It helps me to just literally put this right on the dot of where his head is, and that's going to be helpful for a couple reasons. Next, just line these two up, squeeze them together, and the only thing you want to be careful of is not crumpling up the papers too much, because you want one of them to look semi non-crinkled. Next, take one of the papers and you're just going to fold it in on itself. And now when I get to here where I'm about to reach the tape, I'm going to fold in from the other side. This is why I feel like the head of the stick man is helpful, is that it's almost a guide as to where the tape is. So I folded up all the way to here, I folded down, and now I'm going to fold in. So you fold in just around that tape, and of course you don't want to pull the tape up, so just be mindful of where that is. Next, it can be helpful to kind of crinkle it a little bit, almost so that it makes like his word for it was like a flower. Just adding that little bit of crinkling is going to help. So here's kind of a picture of what it looks like for me. Now, in any case, if you want to experiment with this, it's helpful if this is as flat as possible and as small as possible, so that when you're covering it, it'll look natural. But now here's why the stick man is helpful for me. When I show this from the front, not only is this paper not too see-through, but I've also colored in a large black circle right over where you might peek through to the other side. So you can see that from making the gimmick, I did kind of squeeze and crinkle the front paper a little bit, but it still looks normal. It still looks not too weird in that spot. So now in performance, you're getting the exposed view here. Because it's taped there, you get this nice display of both your hands. Everything's covered behind the stick man's head. And I like that it's not on the upper edge, so there's no overlapping there. You get to do this nice display of both your hands. And that's something Tarbell stressed, you definitely want to start there. Now, his display of the backside, he had it with, you know, he had some characters across, and he was able to turn his whole body and show it to the side horizontal while covering with his thumb. That's how he did it. In our case, you could come over like this and show the backside. Now this is where I'm inviting your creativity. I think there is a potential weakness that you're kind of having this thing where, you know, when you show the other side of a stick man drawing, you would probably expect to see the head. You'd probably expect to see that. So you have this weird thing where you're just showing it like that. So that could be a discrepancy. So maybe consider some of the other drawing types like the flower, or maybe you have multiple flowers that way. And so by you covering one, it's less discrepant. It's less of a huge focus. So picture that maybe there's a flower here, flower here, flower here, same on the other side. Then it's not as big of a deal because they're still seeing some of those characters. I think that's probably why Tarbell did it that way. He knew that by covering up one character, it was okay because they still see the string along of characters, and that way your brain kind of completes the picture and it doesn't seem like you're purposely covering one special thing. So that's maybe the one downside of this application, but I wanted it to be a drawing, and I think there's still something you can take advantage of here when it comes to there's a person there in terms of your presentation. But here's another example. This is kind of the idea I'm saying, is if you have 3 to 5 characters on both sides filled in, or maybe you could even get away with it in this way, then when you show the backside and you're covering that piece with your thumb, it would look more something like this. And it's just in that display where you have it very free and open, and then when you're going to the back, you cover with your thumb and you show, you're kind of turning your body and you're showing the backside, and then you go back up and show. This allows you this very free and open looking display. They see nothing in your hand, and your thumb is doing all the job covering. But back to this iteration of it, if you want to do it vertical like that for your stickman, that's how you would do it. So once you've done that, you can come back to this free and open display from the front, and you're going to come sideways and you're going to rip up the paper. Now, once again, I believe in the book he stressed that because you don't have to hold this in place, it's helpful to show your hands as empty as possible, as many times as possible, especially before you get to here. So now when you get to this rip, you want to make sure you're ripping before and probably not after it, especially if you don't have room. So in my case, I'm going to put all these in front, and then I'm going to fold and curl them in similar to how I did on the non-ripped side. And then I kind of flour them in as before. And I'm going to stress again what he stressed. It can be very hard to not look like you're just covering everything. Even in my performance, it was really tempting, right, to just kind of cover everything with my hands. But the strength here is that you don't need to do that. So really make sure you're making it very free and open. And then the next display you're going to do is one where you're holding both sides of the papers like this. By holding both sides, you can show it front and back. Now, just kind of naturally, you might find yourself turning it over during the fold up procedure. I think that's okay too, if you can kind of get away with some coverage there. But regardless of when, at some point you're going to want to go from the ripped side to the unripped side. So maybe one thing you can do is what you're seeing me do here. You're showing it both sides, and then you come over to hold and you can unfurl it then. But regardless, you got to get to that folded up side. So you go over to the folded up side, and then you very freely show how it has restored just by unfurling the pieces. So now you're in this position and you can go to here. So it really is kind of a reversal of what you did before, because now you're back into this display. You can do your coverage and you can go into the other display. That does make it important that you fold this up small enough to be covered by the thumb so you can do that display once again. And you want to make sure it's folded in on itself so that it does not fall out of place, because these are technically loose pieces. As long as they're folded in on themselves in that final moment, you get them holding into place, and that way you can display from the front like this. And once again, you see that strength of both the color of the paper you use and of the placement of your drawings. So remember, think about the drawing you use, think about the paper you use, and leverage the strengths of the makeup of the effect. So make sure that this goes with what you can do for the display, and take advantage of it being attached at the back so that you can do these nice displays of your hands, this kind of subtlety of it seeming like your hand is otherwise empty. When it's all curled up, you're going to hold it in ways that show your hands empty, just so that it looks all very fair and very free. Now, this is unexaminable, but some of the best looking effects honestly are. Even some marketed effects today that I love, they're non-examinable. But in the case of a visual trick, I think you can sometimes get away with that, because what you're showing is kind of a quick moment that you can then move into other magic. So for example, there's a torn and restored bill I really love that came out last year, where you show the bill torn, you quickly restore it, and you fold it up, you put it in your pocket. And something for me that's helpful to think of is, okay, if I've just done that, maybe I go into another bill trick, right? And so we're moving on. It's like, wow, we've seen this happen. We've seen this stickman restore. Think about moving into more tricks with sticky notes, for example. The spectator cuts to a random location in the deck, and reveals 5 cards. They're given the choice to choose from any one of these cards, and there's nothing sneaky. They truly can pick any single one of these cards. So let's say they choose to think of this one as their card. The magician takes it, turns it over so that no matter where it is inside this packet, you'll know where it is. But with just a little magical snap, we actually make that card vanish from the cards, leaving only 4 cards right in front of their eyes. And where does it end up? Right in the wallet that's been on the table the entire time. Now, to do this trick, there's going to be a few things you prepare. First is duplicates of each of the 5 cards that the spectator is going to choose between. So for me, I picked out a duplicate Queen of Spades, 4 of Clubs, 3 of Diamonds, 7 of Spades, and Ace of Diamonds. But again, you could use any random cards. I like to throw in a face card and have a mix of red and black. So you're gonna find those cards in a separate deck, and you're gonna place those duplicates in the following locations. Now, if you know about the multiple out principle, you're probably getting ahead of me here and seeing where this is going, but I encourage you to watch till the end to see the intricacies of how each out can play out. So the first one is I put the queen here in the wallet. Now the other one that goes in the wallet is the ace, and I put it right here. Now there's a reason this works well. In one out, you're able to open to the queen, show that there's nothing else in here, and move on. In the other case, you're able to turn the wallet over, show this card, and that there's no other card in that pocket. In the deck, you're going to have one of the duplicates placed face up in the middle. Because of the force we use, I like to place it near the bottom, so that way when the spectator cuts the cards in half, they aren't cutting to the upturned card. So you have that card in the middle, and then one more of the duplicates on the bottom. So that's 2 in the wallet, 2 in the deck, and then you're gonna have one last one inside the card box or under the card box, or I like to put it in the cellophane here. All you have to do is make sure that this isn't ever shown unless you need to reveal that card. So like I said, this is the multiple outs principle. We taught another video on this channel where the multiple outs were used to make it look like your prediction always worked. In this case, we're gonna make it look as though their thought of card, which feels unforced, travels to an isolated or impossible location. The thing with multiple outs is that isolation aspect where it makes it look as though it is the only object in that location. So take your original 5 cards and place them on top of the deck, place the deck in the box, and when you perform this, you might want to throw out your wallet, your phone, your keys on the table so that it is there in full view the whole time. So I'm just going to place these 2 objects to the side, and let's get into the performance. We're once again going to use the cross-cut force, but you could use any force you want to. You could also use any false shuffles to get into this. But what you could do is show that all the cards are different by giving quick flashes while spreading across the top. The reason this is helpful is that you don't want to show the face-up card that's in the middle of the deck, and you also don't want to show the bottom card because we don't want them to see any duplicates. So once you've shown how all the cards are different, you are going to place the cards on the table, and like I said, we're using the cross-cut force. You can use a different one if you'd like. But if you've never learned that before, you're going to invite the audience to cut the deck into 2 piles, and then after they've done that, you're going to say, I'm just going to mark where you cut the cards. And when you do that, you place the cards in this orientation. And so by doing that, you're blatantly lying, but there's something psychological to this. You say that you're marking where they cut. This is where they cut, this is the top of the deck. But by doing this motion of they cut the deck into 2 piles and you say, I'm just gonna mark that, and we'll get back to that in a minute. That is going to set them up to not really remember which card is which, and you're going to be able to force the card later. But for the cross-cut force to work, we need what's called time misdirection, so you're just going to talk about something for a second. In this case, something like, now when you cut the cards, you weren't thinking too much about it, so it's pretty much a random chance wherever this is going to end up. But I don't want to just give you a kind of random moment. I want you to make a choice as well. So in a moment, I'm going to have you make a very important choice, and it's important for you to know that whatever you pick out of that is what we'll go with, okay? So that's interesting, and that kind of frames the trick. And that's really all the time you need. So you can come over to here, and this was the top of the deck, but you're going to say, all right, I'm just going to go to where you cut, and I'm actually going to take a few cards out. And And that'll set you up to then turn over the force cards. Turning them over at this point is helpful so that they don't feel like it's weird that you're seeing the cards. Something in the kind of card selection procedure that can be hard is if you do a spread and you have them pick a card and then you say, it's okay for me to see it, you can turn it over. That can always feel clunky and weird. So you've given them this moment to cut the cards. Now you can say, all right, let's look at a few of the cards you cut to. So we're all looking at the cards, it's no big deal, right? Then you're gonna take what was the top half of the deck and place it back on top. That will maintain this revelation in case you need it. And of course the 3 of diamonds is still in the middle face up as well. You can mix these cards up if you like, or have them mix them up, and you're just going to lay them out and say, now, are you drawn to any of these cards? Which card do you want to go with? Whichever card you go with, that is the one we will use. They'll pick their card, and let's just, for sake of argument, use one of the wallet cards for now. And they pick that card. You say, are you sure? You can change your mind. The great thing is they really can change their mind. So just assuming they don't, you're going to explain how you're going to isolate that card here so that we all can see where it is. And then you get this cool moment where we're going to use an Elmsley count. Now an Elmsley count is a sleight of hand move. Now an Elmsley count is a sleight of hand move where you're able to hide cards essentially. There's a lot you can do with it, but in this case we're going to use it to hide this card. So you place it facing the other way between the bottom cards. So you can't place it here or here, you're going to place it right here. And by turning it the other way and placing it there, that'll set you up for this Elmsley count. And so here are some brief mechanics. Peel over with your thumb. Now I'm in my subordinate hand, I'm left-handed, so I'm actually in my right hand for this. And I like to peel over with my thumb a little bit, which gives my dominant hand the opportunity to pinch here in sort of this grip. I peel over and I deal into my subordinate hand. And then before I go to deal again, I'm actually going to peel over all the cards. And in this grip, in this little pincher grip, that's actually going to be pretty easy to do. You're just going to be able to push over a block of those 3 cards without too much hassle. So you've peeled and you're pushing over a block. Now after you've done that, you're also going to load this card back onto the bottom. So you load that card back onto the bottom as you take that big block of cards. You can then go straight into dealing that card normally and dealing this card normally. Now, they will see this card twice, but because they're kind of indifferent random cards, in a quick flash, what they'll notice is the fact that there's no face down card. So one more time, they see that this card is turned over and that it's the card they've chosen, and you're going to peel over, dump, and put this back underneath, and then deal out normally. And they'll see 4 face-up cards and not their face-down card. What you can then do is one by one peel until you reach 4 cards so that you don't flash this bottom card. You don't just freely spread, you're going to peel from that subordinate dealing hand, like you're dealing cards individually, and you can show them. Now from here, there's going to be some things you can do to ditch this. But keep in mind, if you don't want to do all that sleight of hand, you can take these cards, you can mix it up, and you can pretend that it's gone away. You have to move on more quickly, but it is something you can consider if you're not feeling comfortable with the sleight of hand. But let's just say you've ended up here now, you know the rest, you're going to be able to reveal that the card has gone here. So from here, you can figure out what the rest is going to look like. If it wasn't the Queen of Spades they chose, maybe they chose the Ace of Diamonds, you make it vanish, you turn over the wallet and you show it. If they picked any of the other outs, the wallet can just stay there. You don't have to reference the wallet if that's not one of the outs they chose. If they chose the 3 of diamonds, you spread the deck and you show the 3 of diamonds. If they chose the 4 of clubs, you make that vanish and you show the 4 of clubs has ended up on the bottom of the deck, which was here the whole time. And then last, if they choose the 7 of spades, once again, make that 7 vanish and then you show it under here. So do you see how that works? In all cases, what you want to present is, now look, you'll notice that I wasn't touching the deck this whole time, but now suddenly that 3 of diamonds has traveled there, or that 4 of clubs has traveled there. In the case of the box, you could say, I haven't been touching the box this whole time, it's traveled there. Now what about this lingering card here? Well, of course, when the time is right, you can place this on top and show that there's really only 4 cards left. Another thing you can do if you're comfortable with it is you can Gambler's Cop the bottom card away, which is where you kind of hold it in this grip. It's kind of toward the back of your hand. You can Gambler's Cop it away to your pocket. So the French drops look something like this. And what you're doing is, it is another fake take, but it's a little bit different. So you're gonna come over, you're holding it up like this, where your thumb is holding it and the edges of your fingers are holding it. You come over as though you're gonna grab it, and then you're gonna drop it into your fingers as you come over. So when it's under that cover, you're gonna just release enough pressure for it to fall into your hands, just like that. So combined with the cover, you can then come up as though you're grabbing it, curl your hand into a ball. Of course, the finger palm hand comes down to a natural position, and you can make it seem to vanish. Rick Holcomb is a great coin magician here on YouTube, and he talked through some subtleties on his public free video on the subject, so shout out to him. He added a little subtlety of the motion idea. And so if you use some motion where you're going over from one hand to another, not only with this move, but with others, that's gonna help you with the psychology of the illusion. He also added this little twist as he comes through, where things are just in motion. And that seems to add to the effectiveness of the move. So again, the French drop, you come over, you drop it, you make it seem to vanish. And as I've been saying with the case of all these, it's gonna be helpful in the context of the routine to have that coin appear somewhere else, or to be able to do something else with your hands. In this envelope, I have a red-backed playing card with a blank face. We're going to come back to that later. This blue deck of cards, every card is different, is where you're going to make a selection. Now, if you were here yourself, what I'd have you do is cut the cards, and then I would place the envelope on top of where you cut to. There's a very specific reason for that, but since you're not here, I'm just gonna kind of simulate a random spot that you would cut to in the deck. Now, there's no way I could have controlled that. I'm gonna place the envelope down, rest the cards back on top, just representing where you might have cut to. And I want you to imagine those cards just pressing down almost like a panini press down onto the envelope. We're gonna see if that does anything interesting in a moment, but for now, let's take a look. You cut to this card, the Queen of Hearts. A card earlier would have been the Ace of Diamonds, a card later, the Eight of Spades. Truly free choice anywhere in the deck. And you're gonna find something very strange now. Inside the envelope that from the beginning has been in the full view, there's still that one single card, but now it's actually created a photocopy of your card. To prepare, you're going to need a blank card and a copy of the card you want to force with the same back. Now, conversely, you could take a photo of a blank table, maybe like a Polaroid photo, and then a photo of that same blank table with the card, and so then it's more literally you're creating a photo, just in case you don't have a blank card. The other tool you're going to need is the Tarbell switching envelope, or what he referred to as the double envelope. Now, there's a couple ways to make this mechanism work. In our case, it's a simple back and forth slip that is inside this envelope. Now, if you want more specifics on how to make this, there's a separate video that I have on the channel that I'll link for you. But with the flap down, I like to place the blank card here, and then you can pull that up and have the reveal here. So on the lower flap, we have the card, and on the upper flap, we have the blank card. So it's great as you can carry this around with you. Now, the deck just needs to be probably a separate back. If you're doing the blank card version like I've shown you, I think that just makes it a little bit easier to emphasize the photocopying, and it looks less like there's a duplication happening. I think it can just get confusing with different colored backs. Another great thing is you can be doing tons of tricks before and after this, because it doesn't take a lot of get ready to get into. All that get ready is as you're getting ready to show them this next trick, you can be showing them that all the cards are different. And once you locate the Queen of Hearts, just kind of keep that in your view, maybe spread past a little bit. You can come back, get a break, cut to that Queen of Hearts, and now you're ready, it's on top. Take the envelope and open to the blank card, and here's why I like it on this side. You can point this out toward your audience, show them the blank card, and the flap will be pressing forward, and that kind of inner lip will hide from them under the cover of this side of the envelope. So you can show it like this, and then you can do a display that it's empty, and you can just kind of do a brief display. All you want them to see is just this general idea to go back inside with that, and then you can turn it over if you'd like. That might help you remember how to open it later. As you instruct what you're going to have them do, as you instruct what you're about to have them do, you're going to get a break under the top card. An easy way to do that is just to pull with your thumb. You can get a pinky break under it. You're going to go over with the envelope, gesturing how you're going to have them cut to the deck and that you're going to place the envelope there in a moment. And as you go on top, you're simply going to grab with your thumb the card, and you're going to hide it underneath. So now you're in this position and you just don't want to flash the card. Of course, another way you can do that is by placing the envelope on top and sliding your fingers in this way. Either way, you now have them cut to anywhere in the deck, and I simulated that just by sliding some cards over. Great thing is they really can cut anywhere, and I think that's an advantage of this force. And then you do as you said you would do, and you place this down and have them place the rest of these cards on top. Now, if you try to use that force in other tricks, no matter what you do, you're going to have to contextualize it well, and that's why I think this force is well suited to this trick from Tarbell, as he explained that you're painting this picture of a photo being created, right? So take a moment, invite them to imagine that. Don't go too quick. But then, of course, when you're ready, you can lift these cards, come over here, and now what you've done is forced the card. That's pretty cool, I think. Show them that they could have ended up at other cards in the deck, and now it's just the reveal moment. And so you're going to come over and you're going to open the envelope with your fingers so that it opens to the right part. And now if you flipped it over ahead of time, you'll have the card facing you. This does two things. I think it creates for a great reveal because now they're looking at this, they're waiting for the card to be turned over. But we've also once again set up the envelope for its best angles once again. So we've pushed the flap against this edge. It'll hide under the front, and their eyes will see a clean back. You can take it out, and once again you can show it's empty. Close that up, put it away, and focus completely on this reveal. If you want, you can keep a clean duplicate of this envelope in your pocket. Just pull it out later in order to place this card back. And that way, if people want to examine the envelope, that's somewhere you can go with it. But ideally, you just throw it away. It's not a focus anymore. Do you want to learn an easy way to read people's minds? How about a way to guess a card or multiple cards they've selected without markings and without even looking at the card? You can even use this method to deal yourself certain cards. Well, if you want to learn how to do all that, it is time to introduce you to the Cy Stebbins stack. A little bit of a, I guess it can be an underrated stack if you move on to mnemonica, for those of you who are aware of it. But I think there's still value that this stack has. It was the first stack I learned before mnemonica. And I'm not just going to teach you the stack. I'm not just going to teach you one trick with the stack. I'm going to teach you 3 tricks in this video. So if you like magic content like this, like and subscribe, you know all the things, but let's get into it. So here's the stack all the way through, from the top all the way down through here to the 10 of clubs connects to the King of Hearts, all the way down through here. So I try to get every card showing. This is the Cy Stebbins stack, so feel free to take a screenshot of it if you'd like. But this stack comes from, of course, the magician Cy Stebbins. It's a very old principle at this point. He taught it in the book called Card Tricks and the Way They Are Performed, and you can get that book online for free as it is in the public domain. And all the tricks he taught in that book were surrounding the Cy Stebbins stack, but we'll focus on some of my favorites. But if you're wondering how this system works, it's 2 simple things. First is the idea of chased order. So I'll put this here to make it easier on me. It goes clubs, hearts, spades, diamonds. Now the way he preferred to list it was hearts, spades, diamonds, clubs, but you're able to use the acronym CHASED. If you remember clubs, hearts, spades, diamonds, that of course doesn't include the A, but you can imagine CHSD, and that's the order you have: clubs, hearts, spades, diamonds, from top to bottom. So if I'm looking at here at the bottom, a diamonds, I know we're starting back over at clubs. If I cut the deck and I'm looking at a hearts, I know that goes before spades. Okay, so that's the first part. The second part is simply that you add 3. So here I cut the deck, I have a 9 of spades, I go up 10, 11, which is jack, queen is then the third option. So I know it's a queen, and then this is the spades, so I'm going to go to diamonds. It's the queen of diamonds. So this is how, by looking at any bottom card of the deck, you're going to be able to know what the top card is. So let's try one more here. We have the 5 of hearts. What do you think this is going to be? I'll give you a few seconds. Yes, it is going to be the 8 of spades. There you go. So this is how, without a marking or even seeing the card, you're able to guess the card, because by them taking a card out of the deck, all you have to do is cut to where that card was. I'm looking at the 8 of clubs, I'm adding 3, and I'm going from clubs to hearts, so I know that it's the jack of hearts. So let's start this from the beginning. You can use any false shuffle you want in order to make these cards look truly mixed. You can also give them a quick flash. They will look very mixed. They'll look very random upon a cursory glance. The other thing you can do in addition to false shuffles is authentic cuts. And you can even pair this by saying, all right, I'm just going to give the deck a quick shuffle, and here, why don't you cut it? So they'll cut it themselves. So for the first trick, after you've kind of presented the get ready as just sort of casually holding the deck and shuffling it, those are some kind of casual provers, you can do a couple things for this first trick. And in the first trick, we're just guessing one card. So after they've cut the deck for you, you can have them look at that card as their selection. So maybe what you'll say is, hey, just go ahead and cut the deck and look at whatever card you cut to. And that's going to look very casual and also very fair because they've cut the cards themselves. But if you want, you can have them cut and then go into a more normal selection procedure and have them take a card out. If you have them take a card out from your hands, it's going to be easy for you to cut to that card so that you don't mix up the order of the cards. For all of these, it's important to note, you can't actually mix up the order of the cards. You can only cycle the order of the cards. So by cutting the deck, we don't change the actual cyclical order. It's only when we actually shuffle the cards together. So you can have them pick a card in this way, and all you have to do is peek the bottom card. So they pick the card, I tell them to not show me, show their friends and everything. That gives you enough time to peek the bottom card just by kind of turning the deck toward yourself. And you want to be casual with that. And you see that it's the 8 of diamonds. We go up to a jack from there, and it's a diamonds, so we know that it's going to go back to the cycle into C in chased order, which is clubs. So it's jack of clubs. So they're going to have their card memorized. You can even have it cut back into the deck if you'd like. And now you can do a number of things. You can write down a prediction. You can look at them and try to divine it. Presentation here is what's really great with something like a stack and being able to memorize the card quickly. Taking a page from, I saw Alex Pandrea and honestly many other magicians do this in different tricks, you can do a sort of narrow down procedure where you're kind of focusing on all the cards and you're just kind of thinking to yourself. But if you have these cards shown face up for too long, perhaps the stack could be seen, although I bet a lot of people wouldn't necessarily see it. I think the value of this though is that you're not looking at the cards. And so after you get that initial peek, I would encourage you to have them honestly keep the card in their pocket or place it back into the deck and then divine it in whichever way you desire, write a prediction down or seem to kind of catch it from them. So that can be your first trick. It's just a simple divining of the cards. So they pick that one. Here's another test. We go ace, which represents 1. We go up 3, which is a 4 of spades, which is the next suit. So we're going to be able to guess that it's the 4 of spades. That's a pretty good first trick in a series. So let's escalate now. Have them cut the deck again. And then you say, we're going to up the ante. Why don't you take out a clump of cards? So they take out a few cards right here. Here's where now, as they're holding the cards toward them, and they have, you do need to see how many they pick. So they have 6 here, 7. You're going to say, as I say a card, just turn the top card over and deal it down. So before you do that, you're going to get your peek once again as they're holding these cards towards themselves, and that's going to tell you where to start. So you get your peek to know where to start, and this is the great thing about this stack, is that then you can start guessing sequentially what the next cards are. So you know that the next card is going to be the 2 of hearts. You go up 3 and next suit from there, and you know the next card is going to be the 5 of spades. You go up 3 to the 8 of diamonds, and you go up 3 from there to the Jack of clubs. So we would be able to keep going in this way, but you maybe want to encourage them not to take too big of a clump of cards, because now the sequence will start to show, but you're going to be able to keep guessing the cards as they go forward, and that's a very impressive thing. Once they're done with that, make sure you place this all back on the top of the deck in the same order before you move on to anything else. So you can see how this is escalating. You've guessed one card, you've guessed another clump of cards, a few cards. Now, this might be a good time to do a false shuffle again. If you're wondering how to do a false shuffle, we've taught quite a few on the channel, and you can check them out in our tutorials. But regardless, this is another great opportunity to shuffle the deck, invite them to cut it one more time, and then you're going to kind of stage a faux poker hand. I'm kind of translating this to a poker hand, although for the book's case, it was the game of hearts. So if you know how to play hearts, I guess this will apply more to you. I'm admitting some ignorance here. I don't really remember how to play hearts, but if I were to look that up, that would make it easier for the demonstration. But you're going to lay out a 4-hand game of hearts, and all you have to do to make this work is deal yourself last, and you need to have a heart on the bottom, okay? Because then there will be a heart right here in your hand. Just by cutting the deck to a heart on the bottom, you're going to be able to do this. Now, if you're wondering how to do that, if you've shuffled and they've cut, all you have to do is take a look at the bottom. If it's not a heart, all you have to do is find a heart. So you find a heart. You could even go further than that heart, find the next heart. So you have a clump of cards here, and you're going to hold all the cards above the heart, square back up, hold a break. That's under your pinky like this. And you're going to cut to that card, but you're just doing it casually. And you're doing it while you explain, like, look, you've cut the deck, we've mixed the cards, they're all different and in random orders. Here's what we can do. And it's while you're saying, here's what we can do, that you can just cut down, and now you're in order. By having a heart at the bottom, that's what's really important. All that you need is for a heart to be at the bottom in any situation. And by doing that, you're going to be able to deal 4 cards, and you're going to give yourself a heart. So if you want to do it like poker, you can deal 5 cards to each hand sequentially. Now, the important thing to note is that this is going to ruin the stack. You would have to reverse the dealing that you just did in order to get back into stack. But you can use this as an ending of the stack and then shuffle the cards, because you have dealt yourself all of these hearts. It'll be all hearts. If you want, you can escalate it and show that all of these cards are sequential as well, though that perhaps might ruin the illusion a bit more and show how all of these cards were in a sequence, right? The only other thing I would say is that if you want to make this a true royal flush in hearts, all you would have to do is cut to the 2 of hearts. So instead of just cutting to whatever heart you see, you can do a quick spread and show, see, all the cards are random and mixed, and you're going to pick up where the 2 of hearts is as you gather the cards together, and you cut the 2 of hearts to the top, and there you're good to go, so that when you deal these out, you're perfect royal flush, all hearts. At this point, I would highly recommend you truly shuffling the cards and having the audience truly shuffling the cards, or doing a deck switch so that you can move on to normal tricks and they won't ever catch anything. But there you go. That's a full routine where you escalate from guessing one card, guessing multiple cards, and then seeming to show prowess at dealing yourself a winning poker hand. 2 coins here. 1 coin goes under the table. The other coin goes into my hand. Go to the middle of the table here, and you can hear the moment that 1 coin actually passes down. joins the other. Welcome to the Coins Through Table. This version of this illusion is from Gene Hugard's Coin Magic, and actually all of my coin videos this month are from that book. So if you're interested in coin magic, keep checking back this month. We are sharing multiple coin tricks. But for this one, you need 2 coins. You could do dollar size, you could do $half size, you could do quarters, you could do pocket change. Just 2 coins, and there's a couple cool illusions going on at play here. So the first is that you are going to kind of do some mimicry, which is going to hide the actual sleight of hand going on. So with your left hand, you're going to come over and you're going to drag this toward the edge of the table, and you're going to actually pick it up, and then you're going to hold it under the table. Okay, so right now this hand is under the table. Then when you do that for this hand, it's going to seem more natural. So you're going to come over, and what's happening on the table is you're actually going to pull it as though you're picking it up, but you're actually going to let it fall into your lap. And obviously when it does so, it won't make a sound, it'll just fall into your lap. And so when you're doing, this is called lapping. It's a technique used in many ways in magic. When you're lapping, you want to be sat under the table. It'll look natural above, but you're going to want to stick your knees together essentially so that your legs are all together, so that you mitigate the possibility of things falling all over the place or falling in between your legs, right? So you just stick your legs together, and that's just something you have secretly under the table. And for that reason, when you're doing this palming technique and you let it fall into your lap, this hand needs to be over here out of the way, and it's under the table, as in it's out of view, but it's not too far under the table, and you'll see why in a moment. So you have this here, and what you've seemed to do is take this coin under the table, and you've seemed to take this coin in your hand. So from the top again, you're gonna actually do this pickup and hold it under the table. Then this is the exposed view. You're gonna drop this in your lap, and you're gonna take it forward. And so this conviction is very important, that you really naturally go forward with it. At this point, here's what's going to happen under the table. So you're up here on top of the table with this hand. This hand is now going to be able to go over and hold this coin, okay? So this coin comes over to where it's been dropped and it retrieves it. So what you can do is you can actually place this coin into a classic palm, and this is what classic palm looks like. It's a squeezing of your thumb toward your pinky area, and it is a little bit of muscle memory and muscle strengthening, but allows you to kind of hold your hand like this. And in this case, it just gets this coin out of the way so that you can then hold this coin, okay? And now you're in this position. Slightly easier might be finger palm, which is to just squeeze it right here into the base of your fingers. Either way, you just need a free finger so that you can hold the coin. This is all under the table. So now when you've come over here, you want to lean forward. You can bring this under the table. So now you have both hands, both arms kind of leaning forward toward the center of the table. This helps for the drama of the effect, but it also gets you away from the edge of the table, a little bit away from the secret of what just happened. Then 2 things are happening at once. You're going to come down on the surface with this hand as you come from underneath with this hand, and it gives the illusion, the auditory illusion, that you're tapping the top of the table, okay? So you go together, and they're going to hear the metal of this coin. Now this table, I have this table mat here, and I also have a mat under my close-up mat. What you want to be using is a table where the sound is actually going to be hard. You want that hard sound, so that when you do it from the top and the bottom, there wouldn't be a discrepancy. So even in the demonstration, I was lazy, I didn't get rid of the tablecloth. You would want a situation where you have that sound and it sounds right, okay? So from underneath, you're tapping as you go over the table. Then all you have to do is, in this kind of acting moment, you're gonna splay your fingers out on top of the table, and what you're doing underneath is pressing the coin against the table, and it's going to give you that sound, okay? So that's the auditory sound to them that the coin has passed through. It's this really cool illusion, right? So it's going to sound something like that from under the table. And then after that moment, an added bonus with this version of the trick that you get is that you can drop it in your hand. So they've gone from hearing click to slam to then that moment where they clink together And then all you have to do, they know what's happened. You come over and now you see both coins in the hand. So underneath the table once more, you're here, you press it against, and then you can drop it in the hand. Classic palm version is much the same. Press, let it go against the table, and then you just let it drop in your hand. This hand, once again, you're lapping. You come forward, you tap, you splay those fingers out. You can show that the coin is gone, and the other hand will come back with the coin. And remember from the top that you want to mimic the action that you're about to do here so that it looks motivated and it looks natural, and that will kind of throw them off. That matching of the motion will help. So you come over here and you show that you've actually grabbed the coin, come over, and you're just kind of in waiting under the table right here. That way, and remember your legs are kind of squeezed together. When you lap and come forward, this will look very natural. Come forward with your hands after you have grabbed this from your lap. Now you're good to go. Splay, then drop, and you are all good to go. So use this footage and then go back to the performance footage to see the choreography of how that looks. And this is great because it's completely impromptu, no gimmicks needed. How often are you just sitting at lunch or dinner, sitting with your friends or family, and if they know you're already into magic, they might ask. And it's nice to not always do a card trick. That's what I hope will be helpful from this month's videos. I love card tricks. I'm a card trick defender, but I get it. Some variety is good. And something like this feels a lot more authentic in a way, doesn't it? It feels a lot more organic and spur of the moment. You see some great coin magicians out there where they're just hanging out with their buddies and they do coin through table or they do a quick coin trick. And so I think this is really useful for that if you practice. So you make sure practice that choreography well, because there's less to hide when it comes to coins. And I think that's why it can sometimes be more impressive. People like Eric Jones talk about that idea. To perform this change, you're going to need a pinky break under the top two cards. Multiple ways to do that. You can do a pinky count. You can also just count down to them with your thumb, just like that, just by, in the guise of gripping the deck, get the break under those two cards. From there, you're going to come in with your dominant hand and you're going to slide the card underneath this card into this sort of clip grip here, where from the front angle, it isn't seen. But from here, it's kind of between your ring finger and pinky, and over here, your thumb is gripping it at the bottom. Just remember, I am left-handed, so it'd be mirrored in your other hand. And so you're able to do that just by coming over, and you can even adjust the deck for a second. I've seen people do that subtlety before. Even show your hand empty here. It kind of gives you a beat to kind of justify adjusting the deck in that way. And then you can come away, and you're gonna place it against the top edge so that it's lined up, and what they're gonna see is the bottom part of that card. Now all you have to do is let the card align as you release your fingers, and it'll look like this snapping of the card coming into place as you open your fingers up, which is really cool. The way that happens is that because you have this all aligned, so you can bring your hand down and reveal it, or you can let it kind of snap into place. And this one is really going to be influenced by your angles and your visibility windows. So mirror practice is really important, not only for all magic, but certainly this trick. In the original Tarbell course, this was taught actually with just one card, aka two, where you can show them, show the card, and then show the changed card. But I think you can hide it better with a full deck. I'm gonna place a prediction just right here. It's gonna stay there the whole time, so you know there's no funny business. And all I'm gonna have you do is just say stop anywhere. How about right there? Let's take this card out here, the Six of Hearts. Now, it's important to note that all these cards are different. You really could have picked any single one, but I somehow knew, I had a feeling that you might pick that one, which is why I picked out the mate to your card, the Six of Diamonds. Welcome to one of the easiest and most practical real-world card forces. I have been using this for years for card routines. It's just so simple. It's also very quick. So in a routine where the procedure of getting to the card doesn't matter too much, this is great. This is the Riffle Force. So to begin, you have a card you want to force at the top, and you're going to swing cut that in to the middle of the deck. Now, just a repeat for those of you who don't know the swing cut, you're going to hold the deck in biddle grip. I'm left-handed, just for context. Use kind of a Spider-Man grip to hold the cards like so. And this way you have your index finger able to pull up cards, and they're going to pivot off the thumb. So you see that there? I'm holding it at the edges here, and I get to lift cards from the thumb with the index finger. From there, I can push out with my index finger. This swings the cards over. Your subordinate hand, what would be your dealer's grip hand, can come over, and you're going to go deep into it right here. You see kind of right into the underside of my thumb, and I'm clipping it mainly with my index and thumb to transfer it over, and then I can receive it into a dealer's grip. And that is just a way to cut the deck. But in the case of forcing a card, we're going to swing cut in, place down, and we're going to hold a pinky break when we place down. So what you're allowing is the flesh of your pinky to get in the way of the cards, so that way from the back you have access to the card you've cut in. From the front, you're going to want to be careful to hide that break as much as possible. Now, no matter how good you get at this, there's always going to be some level of discrepancy. I think it's very difficult, in fact, to completely remove it. But one thing you can do to help this is to curl your index finger underneath and apply some pressure. So the version I'm teaching right now is, not only from my years of experience doing this, but we're in a month where we are covering tricks from the Royal Road to Card Magic book. So I'm using notes and details from that book, and this is one of them. Putting that index finger underneath is going to help in removing or concealing that break from the front as much as possible. And you have your pinky here. Placing your index finger here might also be helpful for the procedure, which is to riffle down the sides of the deck. And that's what you're going to do. You're going to riffle down the sides, and you're going to invite the spectator to say stop. Now you'll notice here, sometimes I also just place my index finger on top. And in that case, what I do is I press underneath with it right here, kind of this knuckle. So if you want to do that, you can. It's really up to you. One thing with the Royal Road teaching of it is that you do get a display of the whole front of the pack, but regardless, you're going to riffle down the side with your thumb. So if you're doing this in your left hand, it's going to be this side. Riffle down the side, and you just invite them to say stop. Now you'll notice there I've placed the force card face up, and it's right here. Now they really can say stop anywhere, in my opinion, but in the Royal Road book, they encourage you to time it to where they're going to say stop just before this card. So if you want to control for that, you want to swing cut fewer cards down, which gives you more play here. So you have a slightly lower spot where that force card will be. Then it's a little bit of timing, you'll get the knack of it, but you're going to start riffling, and you just say, as I riffle down, just say stop. And you riffle down, and they'll say stop, hopefully somewhere near and above the force card. This allows you to take a moment, and you're going to truly stop where they said stop, and you say right there, and you're holding down. You can see I'm kind of holding this position. So I still have retained the pinky break here. I'm holding this position of pulling with the thumb down at the actual place they've said stop. All you have to do now is come over with your dominant hand, and we're going to hold things in biddle grip once again. You're going to hold the packet, and you have access here with the thumb. You see how that works? Your thumb is going to grip the genuine spot you're going to pull away from. In a moment, you're just going to release and pull up at the break, and you're going to offer them this card. Some notes from Royal Road they recommend is to come over and slide over rather than pulling up. It might be a subtle distinction. In all my experience of doing it, it's just kind of a quick transfer. You go from letting this come together to pulling away pretty smoothly and quickly. It's just a moment, and it's so subtle and quick that to me it doesn't make too much of a difference. Another thing you can do if you'd like is cover this a little bit as you come away. In fact, in part 4 on the page describing this from Royal Road, that is something they recommend, is allowing it to be completely covered. So if you want to really get the coverage, you completely remove any discrepancy that they might notice. And And it's such a quick moment. So from the top, we've swing cut this in, pinky break is retained. You can curl underneath to really keep that front edge as nice and clean as possible. Riffle down with your thumb while inviting them to say stop while you riffle. So you say, just say stop as I riffle down. They'll say stop. You genuinely stop there. You say right there, okay. You come over with that middle hand. Your thumb is contacting the break. Your whole hand, if you'd like, can cover. And you're gonna come away, slide away. And another little kind of nuance that they recommended in Royal Road is to keep that riffle down pause equal to how it looked before. So you had your thumb kind of locked in this downward position before. Keep it there after you transfer to the force card. So now, all in motion, it would look something like this. I'd say, all right, I'm just going to have you pick a card real quick. So you know what? Just say stop as I riffle down. Stop right there. Perfect. And it's as simple as that. What is this force good for? Like I said at the top, it's good for quick procedures. If it really matters, there's some tricks in which you actually front load the procedure to be a little more complicated so that it can seem much more free. But in the case of close-up magic, walk around magic, especially if you're going to be creating a lot of magic moments and you're using the force for them, this can really get you in a great situation. But it's also just a casual thing to get the magic moving. So say you're doing something like the biddle trick, which is a great trick we have a tutorial for on the channel. One option for the biddle trick is to peek the card, but that means you have to get the card selected and then go through a peek method. In this case, you've cut out some of that extra steps. So if you already know the card that you're going to be forcing, you just get through the force real quickly, and then you can immediately go into the trick. This is an important move, in my opinion, this Riffle Force, because it just is that practical, that simple, and that usable for any sort of card trick where you need a force. One extra note in terms of angles is that you can turn this inward toward yourself. It's another note from Royal Road, and that will help with your angles. Of course, they're not ever going to be perfect. I hope you enjoyed this one. It really is practical to your card magic. So as you can see, all these cards are different. So random ordered deck. And I'm going to do a little bit of an experiment here where I'm just going to have you choose amongst some cards. So we'll lay out whatever the top 5 cards are here. And what I'm going to do in a moment is I'm going to turn my back. You're going to turn over one of these cards, and then you're going to memorize it. And if you were here, I'd have you mix them around as well, okay? So it would look something like turning over the card, memorizing it, and then we would mix the cards around. I'll just use a different one, so because I've seen that one. Okay, so here's how we're going to do it. I'm going to turn around. I'll kind of blindly turn one up for you, okay? So I'm going to close my eyes here. Pick up one of the cards, make sure you memorize that card. All right, I'm going to place that down and do my best to just kind of jumble these all up so there's no way I could have known it. Okay, I'm going to try to guess your card in a moment, but I'm going to do so in a little bit of a dramatic way. I'm going to use an envelope from my pocket, and I'm going to try to place the card I think is yours in that pocket. That way I've sort of like committed myself to the card, right? So let me see here. I'm gonna go with, okay. So I'm gonna place that inside my little card sleeve here. And now I've committed myself to the card. Okay, you remember your card. Let's say on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, 5 of diamonds. Okay, I'm getting the feeling that that's not it. So which one? Oh, let's see here. We have the Queen of Clubs, the 8 of Hearts, and it looks like I'm missing a card. You still remember yours, right? Well, here's the crazy thing. This box has been here the entire time. You could have turned over any one of those cards, and yet that 3 of spades you were thinking of is now inside the box. In this video, you're going to learn an incredible card trick. Imagine laying out a group of cards for your audience member to choose. You turn your back, they look at one, they mix all those cards together. Then as you go to find which card you think it might be, all of a sudden one of those cards has vanished and shows up inside the card box. This is not the biddle trick. This is something different, and it'll feel different to you when you see how it's done. This is another classic gem from Theodore Annemann, and you're about to learn it right now. Alright, so let's get into the setup for this trick. This trick uses a classic forcing method that has come up in many other tricks over the years, but this is kind of a classic example of it. And I've simply modernized a couple things so that we're not using a suit lapel jacket for certain things, stuff like that. You'll kind of see how that plays out. The first thing you need is 5 duplicates of a given card. So you can do that by collecting multiple decks, or Magic companies, they actually sell what's called one-way decks, one-way forcing decks. And so if you buy a one-way forcing deck, you'll have a lot of duplicates of a given card. Then all you need is a regular deck of cards, and you're going to need basically a 6th version of that card that comes from just your normal deck of cards, and that's going to be planted wherever you want it to appear. So for the demonstration, I have it in the card box, but if that's going to be inconvenient for you in performance, you can place it somewhere like your wallet. As long as it's somewhere separate from the pockets that you're getting things in and out of, I think that's a good thing. So if it's something that you can set on the table and have hidden somewhere, that's a great place for it to end up appearing. From your normal deck, you're then going to want to take 4 random cards, and some good variety is good, different suits and different colors, number cards, picture cards, and you're going to place that with this object, which for me, this is just what I could find that I have. This is like a little card sleeve. What might even be better is if you have a card sized envelope, and you're going to put those together in your back pocket. Now for me, I am left-handed, so I'm going to put these in my right hand back pocket so that when I reach behind with my subordinate hand, I can come out with these. So if you're right-handed, you might feel more comfortable putting it in your left hand so that when you come back in a dealer's grip, you're going to be able to retrieve those items. So this stack of cards is in your back pocket. So the only thing you need to do before you put these on top is put a random card at the 4th position. Make it different looking from the duplicate card you have. And that way, when you lay them out 1, 2, 3, 4, this is going to be the 4th card, 5th card, and then you'll use this card later. The way Annemann taught it is that you can come out with your deck of cards, and while you're talking about what you're going to do, you're going to casually shuffle the cards so that the top of the deck is retained. And all you need to do for that is just start early with these cards, and that way they'll kind of end sooner. So it's pretty easy to retain the top stock with just a casual bridge shuffle if you just kind of pay attention to that. What's great about that is it's not overcomplicated, it's just casual. You're talking about how you're going to have the spectator pick a card, and so you're just going to randomly shuffle the deck. One other thing Annemann talked about was showing as much of the deck as you could without spreading too far, and that way they can see that all the cards are different. And you can say, look, all the cards are different, and then you just don't spread too far, turn over, and then shuffle the cards, and you can go right into the trick. Now, at this point, this is where I would usually encourage something like a force to then get into this, like a force that cuts to this point in the deck, but I don't really think you need it with that intro that Annemann taught, that kind of casual, show that all the cards are different, shuffle the cards, and then because we're having them pick from 5 cards, I don't think you have to add too much more procedure before that. So now you're going to explain that you're going to lay out these 5 cards, and with more space, you can do it in one long row, but just so you can see them all, I'm going to lay them out like this. And you explain the procedure to them that you're going to turn your back and that they're going to look at one of these cards. And you want to explain to them that you don't want them to crease the corners or anything so that you could guess it, so you're going to show them how you want them to turn it over. So you explain to them that you're going to turn your back, and you say you're going to turn over a card, and you turn over the one card that isn't a duplicate. And so it's just in the act of, it's like you're showing them what you want them to do, that you flash this card at them. And then you go, oh, well, I don't want to know that card. And then you place down another card, and now all of these are duplicates. So it's just this nice little subtlety that Annemann thought of that allows them to think all these cards are going to be random when they end up looking at another card later. So you turn your back, and they're going to look at any one of these cards, and no matter which one it is, it's the 3 of spades, which is great. Then you can explain to them that you want them to kind of mix them around a little bit, and that also keeps them from looking at any other cards because of the procedure. So they've mixed them around, and you come around and you pick them back up. So they've shuffled them, you've taken them back. Of course, you know that these are all 3 of spades, and you are going to go into the next part of the procedure. So here's the next part. This is the switch. So you're going to come behind, and I want you to imagine here that we have our back pockets. So in my right back pocket, I have the thing I'm going to switch into, that stack of cards. So what you do is you reach behind your back and you reach over to the opposite side pocket, and you're going to dump these cards. But you're reaching not around this side, you're reaching around this side, and you do a far reach into, for me, that left-hand back pocket. And then you're going to come back to here where these 4 cards and the envelope are being held, and you're going to take them out around the same side. So that's the switch, but here's what you say while you're doing it. As you come around, you say, now I'm going to try to guess which card is yours, and I'm going to commit to my guess, and you come around, you do your switch, by placing it in this envelope, right? So that's your motivation, that's the quick switch. So the way that Theodore Anneman did it was with a jacket and kind of a similar thing of going into one pocket and then coming out another. So we're just kind of transferring that and applying it here. So you've come back out and now you have 4 random cards and the envelope, and you're going to do some acting where it's like you're trying to choose which one you want, and you just want to make sure you're not showing that you don't have 5 cards. You take one, you place it in here like you've committed it, and now you're here. So you've basically cleaned up this whole thing because now this is gone. Your method of forcing is completely ditched away, and you're just here now. You're here in this situation, and you do a grand reveal of the magician gets it wrong. Look inside here, there's nothing. Oh, which one was it? They'll tell you. You go to here, and now there's only 4 cards. So it's a little bit like the Biddle trick. And this is kind of how presentationally I've adapted it from him. It's kind of taking some things from the Biddle trick and what other magicians have done in that kind of presentation, and we're doing it here with this method. So you have that beat of, oh my gosh, the 3 has vanished, and then you can reveal it wherever you have loaded it, in this case, in the box that has been there the whole time. Now, this doesn't have to be a transporting effect. It can be just a force and revelation. So let's say you've done that kind of show one card that convinces them these are different. They look at one, they mix them up. You can still go behind your back for that switch, but when you come back out, you're going to actually have 5 cards, one of which is their chosen card. And you can do a true guess of their card by placing it in that, and it's just more of a straightforward, you've gotten it. Or you can maybe make the drama happen by placing it in ahead of time and then doing some mind reading and pretending to look at them and say, oh my gosh, I think I got it wrong. And so you switch and you put it to the 3 of spades, something like that. But of course, I think it is really strong if you are able to make it disappear and appear somewhere else. That's always a strong effect. But I just wanted to let you know you kind of have options, right? If you start with that standpoint of having these 5 cards that no matter which card they pick, it is a force card, what can you do with that? All you need to do is be able to make that switch occur and kind of have motivation for it. You need to be pulling something out with those cards when you casually go to your pocket with them, so that when you come back out, it doesn't seem dicey. Hope you enjoyed those tricks, and if you're here at the end, let me know that you went through the whole trick masterclass of the year, but let me know which one was your favorite in the comments below, and I'd love to see kind of which ones you liked out of this list. If you enjoyed this, please consider giving a like if you got value out of it. Leave a comment, like I said, subscribe for more magic. I post something here weekly, so you will see consistent content from this channel. But until next time, stay a hobbyist at heart, keep enjoying your magic, and I'll see you guys in the next video.